Join Walters this Sunday night at 6 p.m. for a DC Defender Conference Championship watch party as they take on the only pro football team in St. Louis.
This Father's Day at Lowe's, score free gifts for the greatest dad. Right now, get a free select DeWalt, Craftsman, or Cobalt tool with purchase of a select battery kit. Plus, get a free Werner 2-foot aluminum ladder when you buy an 8-foot fiberglass ladder. Shop these deals and more this Father's Day at Lowe's. We help, you save. Valid through 6/15 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Two balls, two strikes, two outs, two on, 1-0 Nationals. Soroka holds, here he comes. Swinging a fly ball right field. Hassel is there, moving in on it. He will make the catch, and the inning is over. Soroka survives his first spot of trouble. 6 scoreless innings in the books for the Nationals right-hander. The left-hander winds, kicks, throws. And a swing and a long drive. Left center field for Call. Racing back Langford to the track, to the wall, and there it goes! Alex Call's first homer of the season drops down to the Rangers bullpen. And the Nats have a key insurance run and lead it 2-0. Alex Call's been waiting for that first home run, and he gets it in his first big league game as a designated hitter.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who was at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. My plea to the Nats on the last installment of the podcast was for them not to get fettied, not to get worked by a former Nats starting pitcher, as was the case about a month ago when they had a 10-0 loss to the St. Louis Cardinals at Nationals Park on a Friday evening. May 9th, got shut out by Eric Fetty. He in that game tossed a 6-hit shutout with 8 strikeouts versus no walks. Well, the Nats on this most recent Friday evening at Nationals Park did struggle against another former Nats starting pitcher, this time Patrick Corbin. He allowed 2 runs in 8 innings, continuing his shockingly good season. But the Nats got a very good starting pitching performance of their own, and the Nats won the game. A 2-0 win over the Texas Rangers at Nationals Park on Friday evening, in a game that lasted for just 1 hour and 50 minutes, matching the fastest 9-inning regular season game for the Nats since the franchise moved to Washington, D.C. in the 04-05 offseason. Although there is some debate over whether the game lasted for 1 hour and 50 minutes or 1 hour and 49 minutes. More on that debate coming up shortly. But whatever the case, if you blinked, you may have missed this game. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 30-33. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Mason Kalfas, the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason has been with us since our first season. You can reach him at 202-486-3535. You could find us on X at Nats_chat. You could find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the program natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website you can check out too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt, and we always appreciate the support very much. So the Nats, for a second time in 3 games, have won a game by a final score of 2-0. Nats starting pitcher Michael Soroka, he on Friday evening was great. 6 scoreless innings, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk. Mark, the Nats did in fact get worked by Patrick Corbin, but Soroka was really good, and the Nats won the game. So all in all, a good evening, a rapid evening, however long this game was at Nationals Park.
How about we call this best case scenario, Al? I mean, no ill will towards Patrick Corbin. Let him have his moment, coming back and shining at Nats Park, and then in spite of all that, still takes the loss. Would you believe that the only 2 complete games thrown against the Nationals this season were by Eric Fetty and Patrick Corbin? How about that? I don't know what to make of that one. But look, Corbin was good. There's no doubt about it. He was everything the Nationals wanted him to be so often. And we did see this version of him on occasion over the last several years. But as we talked about, give him a good defense behind him, which the Rangers have. They made some nice plays. And quite honestly, a very swing-happy lineup that swung at a lot of stuff from him and hit a lot of ground balls, but did just enough when they needed it to score the 2 runs and then ride a great pitching performance on their own part. I guess this is the Nats' new formula for success. Get shutout ball from your pitching staff and score just a couple of runs and walk away 2-0 victors.
And not to be consumed too much by the minutia, but when it comes to that official game time, 1 hour, 49 minutes versus 1 hour, 50 minutes, who is responsible for determining what exactly is the official game time of a game?
Well, that would be the official scorer who makes the announcement in the press box when the game ends. And it usually takes a few seconds for him to make that announcement. He's filling out the last out of the game on his scorebook. He's, checking all the totals, making sure everything's right, and then he makes the announcement. Now, I'll just say he announced the first pitch was at 6:45. And as we're getting there in the ninth, I'm watching the stadium clock very closely because I had figured out, once I realized how fast this was going, I looked up the record and knew that it was 150. It was a game in Pittsburgh in September of 2023. And I thought, they're going to break this. And they would have, if not for the C.J. Abrams error, it would have ended in about 147 or 148. But even with that, I'm telling you, I watched Nathaniel Lowe hold his glove out, catch a foul ball in his glove, and I immediately looked to the clock, and it said 8:34, and I hit publish on my game story. And if you look at massinsports.com, it says 8:34 p.m. when I published it. So I said 1 hour and 49 minutes. In those few seconds it takes for the official scorer, I suppose, to look up and then make the announcement, he called 150, so record tying instead of record breaking. I won't play this one under protest, but I think I know, and I think a lot of people know, this was the fastest game in Nationals history.
See, I feel like we need a stopwatch timer for MLB games because there's a difference between a game starting at, say, 6:45 and 5 seconds versus 6:45 and 55 seconds, right? So when it comes to stuff like this, is it the fastest game ever? Is it the second fastest game ever? Does it match the record? Does it break the record? Those seconds do matter. So maybe we need to reevaluate how we do game times. But yeah, this was a game straight out of, the 1940s, 1950s in terms of game time. The Nats on Friday evening continued their post-game summer concert series with the great Natasha Bedingfield. Natasha Bedingfield is responsible for one of the all-time great television show theme songs, the theme to the all-time great television show The Hills on MTV. I don't know if you were a fan of The Hills, but this game lasted for about as long as an episode of The Hills. Long live The Hills, by the way. I am proud to say that I was a fan of that show.
I never saw it, and I'm stunned to hear that you're such a loyal fan now. That doesn't seem to fit in with your usual preferences when it comes to media. You may hear Natasha in the background. She's still going. You may hear at least the bass going on in the background here from my little bunker near the press box up high atop Nationals Park.
Yeah, I'm still processing all that went on between Spencer and Heidi on the Hills, but that's a conversation for another day. So, yeah, Patrick Corbin dominated the Nats in this game. I mean, let's not sugarcoat this. Corbin in this game, 2 runs in 8 innings. I mean, if I'd have told you nothing else about this game but that, you would have said, oh boy, here we go. The Nats are going to get humiliated in this game. But no, they end up winning this game. The Nats for the game, 2 runs, 5 hits, no walks, 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position. Corbin was really good, 2 runs, 8 innings. The Nats did get a homer and a single from Alex Call. He is the Nats starting designated hitter and number 5 batter, 2 for 3 with a solo homer and a single. Call in the Nats 1-run 7th, leadoff first pitch home run to left center for a 2-0 Nats lead. The homer going a projected 407 feet per StatCast. But otherwise, in a game that moved at like lightning speed, that was basically it for the Nats offense in this game. Their other run came on an RBI ground out by Robert Hassel III in the bottom of the second inning. Corbin was mowing through this lineup, and the Nats ultimately did just enough to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, Riley Adams came like a foot away from a 3-run homer in the second. That probably would have changed the narrative of this one. It came up just short. It was almost the exact same spot that Alex Call hit his several innings later, and Call just got enough of his to clear the fence. So, one little bit of bad luck there, I suppose. But I'll tell you what, I mean, just like the Rangers were, the Nats were swinging at everything. Now, they said, knowing Corbin and his propensity, there was a concerted effort to go after him early in the count. And you saw plenty of teams do that to him over the years when he was here. So the strategy wasn't necessarily wrong, but he was pretty effectively keeping the ball down in the zone, away from hitters. And I mean, the telltale sign is how many ground balls they hit into. I'm looking at the 4th, 5th, and 6th innings in particular. My scorebook says 5-3, 5-3, 4-3, 9, L6, 4-3, 6-3, 4-3, 4-3. That is a ton of ground balls, and most of them were not hit that hard. They were reaching. It's exactly what they're trying not to do. They've won a couple of games on this homestand, but they have not, since that 10-run rally in the first inning in Arizona, they have done very little offensively, and it just does speak to this kind of all-or-nothing nature that we've been discussing with this team's lineup. I mean, they got the job done when they needed to tonight, but it took a superhuman pitching performance by their own guys to make sure that was enough to win the game.
And you talk about pitch efficiency. So the Nats in this game, 4 pitchers combining for 9 scoreless innings on 117 pitches. Corbin in this game, 2 runs, 8 innings, 89 pitches. Wow, 89 pitches in 8 innings. That is something.
206 total pitches in this game. I didn't have time to look that one up, but that's got to be about as low a number as you're ever going to see in a 9-inning game. I mean, you refer to a complete game on under 100 pitches as a Maddox, because Greg Maddux used to do that so often. You almost had a double Maddox from these two teams. Now, yeah, Corbin only went 8 because there was no bottom of the ninth, but he easily could have, or whoever pitched the ninth could have done it in 10 pitches or fewer. These were some swing-happy teams. Good pitching performances, sure. And, you give them credit for that. And, I will say this. Corbin got a nice, very polite applause when his name was announced and part of the starting lineup. They didn't do the tribute video. I'm told that's going to happen on Saturday. The idea being it's kind of awkward to do that when a guy's actually pitching and he's on the mound. Like, do it when he's just in the dugout and he can acknowledge the crowd and wave to them. So look for that on Saturday. Everybody had nice things to say about him. We've had the conversation way too many times about it. We'll just say this. They don't win the World Series without him. He never missed a start. He was a good teammate. People liked him within the clubhouse and everywhere else. And so good for him for sticking this out and having better results this year for whatever the reason may be. But some satisfaction, at least, that as well as he pitched, he did not win the game for them.
If you really wanted to engage in some gamesmanship, you do the video on Friday evening while he's pitching, and you try to throw him off his game. And I wonder if that thought crossed the Nats' mind of maybe we can rattle old Corby if we run the video on Friday evening as opposed to Saturday.
I'm going to say that given their relationship, they wouldn't have taken that step. There are maybe some other former players for this team that they might have not cared as much about affecting things like that. But I think the Nationals, still feel like they owe a lot to Patrick Corbin. Again, they paid him handsomely for 1 great year and 3 great innings in Game 7 of the World Series. So I don't know they owe him anything else, but everybody has said very nice things. Everybody's happy for him. Doesn't seem to be any ill will on either side of that equation.
Hey, are you a law firm partner or associate looking to transition to a new firm because of compensation, or your firm recently committed to $100 million in pro bono work that you disagree with?
Or maybe your firm is using April Josh Bell, but the other firms are using May Josh Bell.
If this sounds like you should explore the lateral market and give Mason Kalfas a call. Mason is the top legal recruiter in the Washington, D.C. area. He has been a Nats Chat podcast advertiser since the beginning of our show. Mason will work with you to create a marketing and business plan to pitch to new firms and dramatically increase your compensation and or day-to-day happiness in your new job. Mason has placed partners and associates in just about every large law firm in D.C. and New York, and he can provide plenty of testimonials from candidates he has placed on the outstanding service that they received. You need a strong advocate in your corner to find the best law firm out there for your future career. Call Mason Kalfas today, 202-486-3535.
Tim Shover's here to tell you about Babbel. Did you know that the Nats are on the Spanish radio airwaves for the 2nd consecutive season?
Luis García Jr. por Lipscomb, un batazo altísimo, atrás el dinero, la bola se va, se va, se va, se fue a la fruta.
If you want to know what Luciano and Gustavo are saying on the broadcast on calls such as this one, then check out Babbel. And here's their special offer for Nats Chat listeners. 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/natschat. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/natschat. That's spelled BABBEL.com/natschat. Babbel.com/natschat. Rules and restrictions may apply.
All right, fellas, I need you to stop what you're doing and go download Prize Picks if you haven't already. Because once you download Prize Picks and use code BACKYARD, you get $50 on us once you place the first $5 lineup. And in that lineup, the reason I love it so much, because all you have to do is place more or less on whatever player you want to rock with that night. And you can do it for as many players or as little players as you like. And it doesn't matter if I'm watching basketball, hockey, golf, baseball, esports, doesn't matter. I can put them all in my lineup. The reason I like firing on Prize Picks so much during the summer is because I travel all the time, and Prize Picks is available in more than 28 states, including California, which I love summers in California. So I can fire on Prize Picks with all my friends and swear out the games with them. And it doesn't matter what we're watching, we always get to enjoy the game a little bit more. And lastly, fellas, there's also a special going on during basketball playoffs. Every time you do a $5 3-pick basketball flex play during the playoffs, you automatically get entered in the Prize Picks sweepstakes for courtside tickets to the finals. So download the app today and use code BACKYARD to get $50 instantly after you play the first $5 lineup. That's code BACKYARD to get $50 instantly after you play the first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Prescription products require completion of an online medication consultation with an independent healthcare provider through the LifeMD platform and are only available if prescribed. Subscription required. Individual results may vary. Additional restrictions apply at lifemd.com. Read all warnings before using GLP-1s. Side effects may include a risk of thyroid C-cell tumors. Do not use GLP-1s if you or your family have a history of thyroid cancer.
Should GLP-1 weight loss medication like Wegovy and Zepbound cost thousands of dollars? We don't think so. TryLifeMD.com helps provide insurance access to the leading GLP-1 medications. Visit TryLifeMD.com and check your eligibility for GLP-1 medication with copays as low as $0. Listen to Bridget's story after losing 55 pounds and using her insurance for coverage.
LifeMD helped me get covered with my insurance. Finding out that it was covered was huge. I've lost 55 pounds. I am so much healthier now that I've lost the weight. I would never be able to do it without them.
Get started today and check your eligibility for GLP-1 medication with copays as low as $0 at TryLifeMD.com. That's TryLifeMD.com.
Nationals leading 2-0. Finnegan coming set. The pause. Now the kick. Here it comes. Swing and a pop-up. Foul outside at first. Nathaniel Lowe through the coach's box has a play. He waits and he makes the catch. And a Curly W's in the books. A shutout victory again for the Nationals for the second time in the last 3 days.
Was another rough game for shortstop C.J. Abrams. He is the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, 0 for 4 with the aforementioned throwing error. The Nats number 2 batter, starting third baseman Ahmed Rosario. He went 0 for 4 in this game. But also with the Nats offense in this game was the return of Jacob Young. He is the Nats starting center fielder and number 8 batter. Went 1 for 3 with a single. The Nats on Friday afternoon announced having returned Young from his minor league rehab assignment and having reinstated him from the 10-day injured list. He had been on that since May 23rd, retroactive to May 20th due to a left shoulder AC joint sprain. And the corresponding roster move, as was discussed by you on this podcast a few episodes ago, was the Nats optioning outfielder Daylen Lile to AAA Rochester. So I do think it's go time for Jacob Young. I think the pressure's on for him to produce because there are people knocking on the doors now at this point in terms of Nats outfielders. Robert Hassel III already is up. Daylen Lile didn't do that much wrong in his first stint at the major league level in a regular season here. So I think if Young struggles, we could see the inverse of what we saw on Friday happening. Young down and Lile back up.
Yeah, and then remember Dylan Cruz at some point is coming back as well. That one still I think is going to take a little while. They're going to be careful with the oblique. But I think the clock is ticking, and I think Jacob Young knows that. And he said that just before he got hurt, he had been working on some swing changes and liked the results. It didn't have a lot of time to show it, but I looked it up. He went 3 for 5 with a triple in those last 2 games he played in Baltimore before getting hurt. So he's hoping to pick up where he left off. In this game, it's a bunt single and a couple of outs, so nothing really to work off of there. The move was as we expected it to be. I think it's an appropriate move. Daylen Lile showed some good things. They all spoke very highly of him. Davey Martinez said to him, listen, you got this experience now under your belt. Go down there, keep doing what you're doing, and you're going to be back up here. I know you're going to be a big part of this team at some point here soon enough and be here for the long run. So there's no negative at all into how Daylen Lile did, except just to say he had 18 games of experience at AAA. There's nothing wrong with letting him go back there and sort of force that issue again when he's truly ready for it. Now, Jacob Young, yes, needs to hit. I'd also say Robert Hassel needs to show something as well. And while he has looked the more big league ready of the two compared to Daylen Lile, if you look at the numbers, it's not as much production as you would think. And I think the biggest red flag there is he has yet to draw a walk. There have been a lot of quick at-bats with him. He had that one great 10-pitch at-bat to drive in a run on the West Coast trip. But for the most part, he's not getting deep in counts, not drawing walks. And the numbers, while okay, and he's had some big hits, I don't know that we've seen it consistently enough for what you expected he could be. So I don't think it's a lock that he's here permanently now either. He's going to get the chance to play every day in right field. Alex Call gets some starts here and there. So I think now is the time when this debate that we've been anticipating for quite a while with all the young, talented outfielders they have in the organization. Now you start truly evaluating it. And when it's all said and done, you're going to pick who the best three are. We know James Wood is one of them. So it's the other two, with Dylan Cruz probably having an advantage because of the track record and the reputation. And then it's up to the rest of them to battle it out and see who emerges on top in the end.
Yeah, Cruz is going to get a leash because he was a number 2 overall pick. I think what's going to be really interesting is to what extent does Hassel get a leash, right? You figure the leash on Jacob Young will only be so long because he was not some highly touted prospect. You figure the leash on Daylen Lile won't be especially long because he was not a supremely high pick, although he has worked his way into being a pretty well-regarded prospect. But with Hassel, you know, he won't get the Dylan Cruz treatment, but you figure he's going to get treatment better than, say, a Jacob Young, just from a standpoint of how he is viewed as a prospect. So we'll see here. So the Nats starting pitcher in this 2-0 win over the Rangers on Friday evening, as mentioned, was Michael Soroka. And Soroka had been having these, shall we say, but starts, where he does a lot of good things, but at the end of the outing, the final line isn't all that impressive, and he has some regrets, and you say, well, he pitched well, but you know, he did this late in the outing, and the final line ended up being, say, 4 runs in 5 innings, that kind of a thing. Well, there was no but on Friday evening. Soroka was flat out good. 6 scoreless innings, 7 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He gave up just 2 hits, both of which were singles. He issued a hit by pitch. He threw a lot of strikes, 85 pitches, 54 strikes versus just 31 balls. So not only was he effective in terms of run prevention, but he continued to generate the strikeout. This, to me, is a sneaky positive with Soroka. The Nats' best strikeout starting pitcher this season clearly has been Mackenzie Gore. Number 2 is Michael Soroka. He's generating strikeouts in a way that other starting pitchers, not named Mackenzie Gore or not. Really good job by him in this game.
His breaking ball had them completely baffled in this game. They were swinging out of their shoelaces and not coming close to it. And as he pointed out, a lot of that had to do with the fastball being effective. And so you can play the breaking ball off of that. And I'm sure there's a lot of truth to that. But just watching it, it felt like that was the big pitch, the breaking ball. I mean, he strikes out 7, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them coming in a 3-inning span from the 3rd to the 5th. He really dialed it in during that part. Didn't give up a hit until 2 outs in the 5th. And then the big thing for me is the 6th inning. And you mentioned it. He had those but starts. And he even mentioned to us after his last one, I'm going to read you the quote from the start in Arizona. I'm tired of telling you guys I felt like I threw the ball pretty well, but still gave up 4. One day we'll have to switch that around and put up a bunch more zeros. Well, he did it. And the reason he did it is because he finished what he started this time in the 6th inning. You could see it starting to fade, as we've seen from him. Some longer at-bats, gives up a single to Smith, ends up issuing a 2-out walk to Seager, very good hitter. And now here comes Marcus Semien, their cleanup guy, with 2 on, 2 out. Brad Lord's ready in the bullpen. Soroka stays in there, battles through a long at-bat, and gets him to fly out on his final pitch of the night. You could see the satisfaction in his own eyes when we talked to him afterwards, how important that one was for him, that it's no longer a but start, that he finished it just as strong as he started it and gave him 6 scoreless in this game.
And perhaps he can build on this and give us a bunch of but starts in a row. Would you believe that the best strikeout to walk ratio for a Nats starting pitcher this regular season belongs to Michael Soroka, 5, as compared to 4.91 for Mackenzie Gore? Soroka, 35 strikeouts versus 7 walks. Now, that's over just 7 starts as compared to 13 starts from Mackenzie Gore. So as the Michael Soroka sample size gets larger, we'll see where that strikeout to walk ratio is at. But peripherals matter a lot, and his peripherals are good. So, let's see where this goes. The ERA is at 4.86, so we're not going to go crazy over this, but impressive work by him in this game. And I think it does speak to he had been pitching better than the baseline numbers had been indicating. And it was good to see him get the proper baseline numbers given the peripherals with what he did in this game on Friday evening.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you didn't ever see what the stat line said and just watched him pitch this year and asked, how has he looked, I'd say, man, he's been really good. And then, of course, it's the buts and those innings that have kind of lost it for him. So big step for him here. He's got to continue that now. But I agree. I mean, he's got the swing and miss stuff. He's throwing 95, 96 with his fastball, which is harder than he ever used to throw. He's talked about the significance of that as he's really revamped himself as a pitcher. It's not just about being healthy. He is a completely different pitcher now than he was back when he first started out with the Braves. And so there's a lot of potential there. It's just now a matter of him stringing these starts together, having success, and as I said, finishing them. I think there's still that little bit of question. Can he get you through a lineup a third time, or at least, a few of those hitters a third time? Or do we have to treat him, the Trevor Williams, Jeremy Hellickson method and just say, you get through 5, twice through the lineup, that's it, you're done, we're not taking any chances. He earned the chance the way he finished this one to get to do that again, but he's going to have to prove that on a more regular basis.
And the Nats bullpen in this 2-0 win over the Rangers on Friday evening. Really good, really efficient. 3 Nats relievers combined for 3 scoreless, hitless, and walkless innings. Brad Lord tossed a perfect top of the 7th. Jose A. Ferrer tossed a perfect top of the 8th. And Kyle Finnegan tossed a perfect top of the 9th, despite shortstop C.J. Abrams committing a 2-out throwing error. And we talked about Patrick Corbin allowing 2 runs in 8 innings on just 89 pitches. Nats relievers in this game, 3 scoreless, hitless, and walkless innings over a mere 32 pitches. That was it. Soroka, 6 shutout innings, 85 pitches. The bullpen, 3 shutout innings, just 32 pitches. Wow.
I mean, Lord got the first 2 outs on 2 pitches and then needed a few more. He wound up with, I think, 9 for his total inning, but he was good. Ferrer was good. Finnegan should have had his first 1-2-3 inning, I feel like, in a while, if not for the Abrams error with 2 outs in the 9th. But that was good to see because, they didn't have really a whole lot of margin for error there in a 2-0 game. So you start messing around, you walk a batter, you make one bad pitch, you can be in trouble. But they went after, as we said, a very aggressive Rangers lineup. I mean, you look at the names in that Texas lineup, they should be way better than they are. They already fired their hitting coach. This has been an ongoing problem for them, but good on the Nats for maybe taking advantage of a frustrated Rangers team that is maybe pressing and trying too hard. And the Nats picked up on that. They got quick outs and they shut them out.
Tim Shovers here for LinkedIn Jobs. Before I get to the promo code for small business owners who want to grow their staff, allow me to talk about a job in DC that I think needs to be filled by the right person. It is time to bring up Brady House from AAA and have him start at third base every day for the Nationals. I'm not entirely sure of the corresponding roster move, and the odd man out very well might be Ahmed Rosario. But let's give House a shot with the Nats at the hot corner. Anyways, if you need to make a crucial hire like your everyday third baseman, post your job for free at linkedin.com/NatsChat. That's linkedin.com/NatsChat to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
The batter at hand is Stott with a 3-2 count. Runners second and third. Gray fires. Swing and a miss. He struck him out on a high fastball. What an escape by Josiah Gray. He's fired up heading back to the dugout. 2 pop-ups and a strikeout. And they set off the fireworks even though the Phillies did not score.
So the Nats now just 3 games under 500, 30-33. Game 2 of this series, Saturday afternoon, 4:05. Mitchell Parker versus Jacob deGrom is your starting pitching matchup. Speaking of starting pitchers, we have a Josiah Gray update for you. So Josiah Gray is on the Nats' 60-day injured list. He, of course, is recovering from serious UCL surgery. He, on July 24th, 2024, underwent both Tommy John surgery and an internal brace procedure on his right UCL. The expectation has been that if he does pitch this season, it will not be until September. You had a chance to speak to Josiah Gray on Friday, and it sounds like that timeline remains the timeline.
Yeah, that pretty much lines right up with what he seems to be thinking. So July 24th, 2024 is when he had the surgery, and we all know how these things work. It's a best case scenario, 12 months, and the way he described it, he was making it seem like the goal for him is to be facing live hitters at 12 months, not to be back in the big leagues. And that doesn't mean that he's had any setbacks. It just means that's what their process for him has been. I don't think there's anything to read into that as if there's been any delays or problems with it. He's currently throwing several bullpens a week, only fastballs at this point. He's going to throw one on Saturday while he's here. He's actually in town because the Nats Youth Academy, for which he does a lot of work with, has their annual graduation ceremony this weekend, and he's here to be a part of that, which is a cool thing as well. But while he's here, he's going to throw in front of the coaching staff and the trainers, then head back down to Florida. He's probably looking at little more than a month from now, so approaching the 1 year mark, is when he will start facing hitters again. Then you build up from that, simulated games, and then go on a rehab assignment. And I asked him, what would be the significance for you of pitching for the Nationals before the season's over? And he said that's absolutely the goal. Not a guarantee that it'll happen. You have a lot of steps still to go between now and then, but he wants to be up here, I think, both for his own personal gratification and knowing that he's good to go going into 2026. But I think he's also figuring that there may be a chance for him to help this team in some way. We don't know what kind of position they're going to be in come September. If he can help them in whatever way that he can as a healthy pitcher for them, he really wants to be a part of that.
Yeah, and I do think there is something to be said for the psychological benefit of you're coming off this super serious arm surgery. If you can get that initial major league outing, quote unquote, out of the way this season, and then next season you can just focus on doing you and being you, I think there's something to that. I always felt like there was value, say, in Steven Strasburg pitching in 2011, and that laid the foundation for the great 2012 that he ended up having. Now, look, maybe he still would have had a great 2012 even without pitching in 2011, but I do think there's something to be said for if you can get that initial outing out of the way, okay, and then you can just focus on being your best self come the following season.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think the same was true for Jordan Zimmerman. He had a similar path. I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 starts maybe in September of 2010, and then he was good to go the next year. Now, we're way ahead of ourselves here, but if he only makes a few starts, then Josiah's looking at a limited number of innings a year from now. So you can't just say he's guaranteed for 30 starts in the big league rotation all year. And there's also going to be a question ultimately of how does he fit in to this rotation. There's a lot still for him to prove in that regard. Now, I would say right now, he deserves a shot over at least 1 or 2 of the pitchers that are currently in this rotation, but we'll see where they're at come the end of this year, going into next year. If Mackenzie Gore's obviously a big part of it, Jake Irvin seems to be, if Cade Cavalli is a part of it, and then we'll see what happens with the likes of Soroka and Parker and Trevor Williams, who has another year on his contract. So I think they want to believe that Josiah Gray is a part of this, not as their number 1 or 2 starter, but somewhere else in the rotation. Yeah, but number one, he's got to show he's healthy, and then he's got to show that he's actually one of their 5 best starting options at some point.
Wow, so you don't think he's automatically their number 2 starter? I mean, I just would look at it like Gore is the ace, and then after that, I'd say Gray's the number 2. I mean, I don't think Jake Irvin's done enough to assert himself in that regard, and I certainly wouldn't say that Cade Cavalli has done enough in that regard. I mean, it is just 2 years ago that Josiah Gray had that nice step forward season. You don't think the Nats internally would view it as, okay, Josiah Gray next season, assuming he's healthy, is our number 2 guy behind Mackenzie Gore?
I think it's a good question, and maybe they will. Maybe I'm thinking with my own eyes of what I've seen and how that compares to what we've seen in the year and a half since he last pitched. You kind of forget about what he was. And yes, he was their opening day starter. So maybe they grant him that kind of respect for having already established himself as that before he got hurt. And they say, okay, but you get to go right back to where you were. So yeah, I mean, they're not overlooking him in any way. But I do think he has some things to prove, not just that he's healthy, but that he can be effective. And given who else has come up along the way and who may still be coming, I don't think it's just a lock that he's penciled in at the top, or near the top of the rotation. I think at some point he does have to actually pitch well enough to earn that distinction, I'd say.
Well, while we are talking about starting pitchers and elbow surgeries, and oh, by the way, starting pitchers with the name Corbin in some way, Diamondbacks starting pitcher Corbin Burnes, it turns out he does need Tommy John surgery. Arizona manager Torey Lovello, he on Friday evening announced that Corbin Burnes is to undergo Tommy John surgery. It was in the Nationals' 3-1 loss at Arizona on June 1st. That Burnes was good. 1 run, 4 2/3 innings, 6 strikeouts, 1 walk, but he left the game in the top of the 5th due to right elbow discomfort, and sure enough, he does need Tommy John. As you may recall, Burnes, in leaving that game, appeared to say, quote, "My elbow's done, it's dead," end quote. We talked about that at the time. Burnes saying that got captured all over social media. And, I bring this up not just because Burnes got hurt in that outing against the Nats, and not just because Burnes, is viewed as one of the better starting pitchers in the majors, but man, it does speak to when you pay these pitchers money, you just have to be careful, and you have to white knuckle it in terms of trying to get through that deal, because 6 years, $210 million is what the reported terms of the Corbin Burnes free agent contract from this past offseason are. Here we are now, year one of the deal, and this guy needs to undergo Tommy John. The Diamondbacks paid Burnes his big money going into his age 30 season, and just like that, the elbow goes. This is a guy, by the way, who has been exceptionally durable. Not a hint, not a whiff of injury trouble in recent years. And just like that, before the All-Star break of his first season of a 6-year, $210 million contract with the Diamondbacks, the elbow goes and the guy needs Tommy John surgery. You feel for the player clearly, but from a club perspective, and as we spin this, from a Nationals perspective, this is why I have such a hard time killing teams, even the Nats with the Lerner ownership group and everything going on with that, for not spending big money on free agent starting pitchers. It is such a risk, and this is the latest example of that.
Yeah, you could say the Diamondbacks are a little snake bitten right now. Wah, wah, sorry. And the thing about that is when you sign a guy at age 30 and you sign him to a long-term contract, I'm sure they're thinking, okay, we're hoping to get those best years out of him on the front end of the deal, and then we'll live with whatever happens on the back end. And instead, they now have to rethink that and hope that he is good come year 3 and 4 and moving beyond. And as he's only getting older, and that's a tough spot to be in. It does feel like with all these guys, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when it's going to happen. There are fewer and fewer established big league pitchers who don't have to have some kind of elbow surgery along the way. It's a true epidemic within the sport. Everybody acknowledges that and they understand it. And this catch-22 that's forever there. You can't win without pitching, but you're terrified to spend money on it because you know what might happen because it's so uncertain. And it's a reminder how great Max Scherzer was and how out of the ordinary that is. And truly, just to bring it back to this game, say what you want about Patrick Corbin and the results weren't good. The fact that he stayed healthy for 6 full years of that contract speaks to his durability and the way he kept his body in shape. And I don't know, would it have been better or worse if he had missed significant time after getting that contract because of injuries, or the fact that he made every start, but he obviously didn't pitch well for the majority of it?
Yeah, I mean, you would have liked more than one good season. I think that's the way I would look at it. But the durability does matter. And it's tough. Longtime MLB executive Andy McPhail had a saying that I've always liked. And I don't know if he invented this saying, but I know that he abided by this saying and, at the very least espoused the saying. And that is, you grow the arms, you buy the bats, with the idea being if you're going to spend in free agency, you spend it on position players because at least there is a reliability with them. It's not, 100%, but with pitchers, you just have this injury risk that is extreme. And by and large, don't spend big money in free agency on starting pitchers. And I think there's something to be said for that. And so, I have kept that in mind with these frustrating Nationals off seasons in which the team has not been spending. Now, look, there's a middle ground between barely spending anything and spending $200+ million. Okay, like it doesn't have to be all or nothing. But, when the Nats get killed for, why weren't you in on a Corbin Burnes, or, why weren't you in on some other starting pitcher who got mega money? This is why, because, more often than not, these contracts do not work out. And in this case, this could end up being a disaster of a deal. If he's already having Tommy John in year one of a 6-year, $210 million contract, you're not off to a good start in terms of this being a good contract for Arizona.
No, I mean, he's behind the 8 ball already. And, I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with that philosophy from Andy McPhail. But I would point this out. What was the World Series winning rotation that the Nationals had? Max Scherzer making over $200 million. Steven Strasburg was on the first of his $100+ million contracts and then got the next one after that. Patrick Corbin, $140 million. Anibal Sanchez, short-term, 2-year deal, but he made good money on those. And then the 5th starters were the cheaper homegrown, supposedly. But, Strasburg was the only homegrown guy. You had 3 of the top 4 were free agents, and the one homegrown guy at the top 4 got a huge contract because of how good he was. So it's almost like you can't help but dance with the devil at some point because you get infatuated with those kind of guys. And let's say, we're looking way ahead here, but one of these days, Paul Skeens is going to be a free agent. Would you shy away from giving him a contract? Maybe you do, but these guys only come along once in a generation. You don't know. Is it worth it? I don't know. It's a fascinating question. It's going to be there until the end of time. I don't think this issue is going away anytime soon. pitchers, you can't live with them. You can't live without them.
No, you can't. And I think more and more I look at the Nats and what they did in 2019 and how that rotation was assembled and really how the Nats overall during the great run of 2012 through 2019 did starting pitching by and large through trades and free agency as opposed to drafting and player development. I feel like that is an anomaly. Like that's not something that is repeatable these days. It's just so hard now because these guys get so hurt so often. And it does make you appreciate the durability of, not just Max Scherzer and Patrick Corbin like we've talked about, but like Gio Gonzalez was very durable. Tanner Roark was durable. Jordan Zimmerman ended up being durable for this team. And you look back on all of that, and I feel like you have a greater appreciation for it now more than ever before because it's just unavoidable. All of these guys these days get injured.
Yeah, they were the anomaly. And it will be fascinating because you and I both know what Mike Rizzo's philosophy is. It's not the Andy McPhail philosophy. He believes you win championships with dominant starting pitching, not just one, but multiple guys. And his track record shows the best success he's ever had working for the Diamondbacks with Johnson and Schilling and GM of the Nationals with Scherzer, Strasburg, Corbin, etc. I think he still firmly believes that. But when the time comes, if and when it does come, is that the path they'll take? Or will they try to go about it a different way, at least in terms of spending the money on already established starting pitchers as opposed to developing them on their own or maybe trading for them like Gio Gonzalez when he was still relatively young and affordable?
You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. Hit us up on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com, including if you would like for us to deliver a shout out on the program. Email the man who runs the podcast, Tim Shovers. Again, that email address, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Gurriel at first, no balls, 2 strikes. Corbin fires, swinging a tapper, third base side of the mound. Corbin off the hill has it. He gloves, he throws, he's out at first, and the side retired. Patrick Corbin has pitched 2 scoreless innings out of the bullpen, and he sends the World Series to the 8th inning.